honest about it. Even if you're not a big college basketball fan, you are likely watching the game tonight. Now, you could watch with us on in the background or listen to us or watch us, but I mean, hey, knock yourself out if you are. Maybe we'll give you a good live bet and you'll win some money. There's not even any NBA on tonight because even the NBA said, we're not stupid. We're not going to compete with this. We're not going up against the national championship game. Forget it. Maybe we'll do live betting on hockey tonight. Did hockey put games on tonight? Hopefully they did. Maybe we'll do that. Really, what do you even do on a night like tonight? What do you even do? There's 2 hockey games going on right now, and there's going to be one late one in Seattle between Arizona and the Kraken. I mean, that's it. Maybe we'll just live bet hockey all night, just for fun. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. 888-670-8549 is the text line number into the show. I don't even bother giving the call-in number anymore because people don't call. People want to text. Hit us up on the text line, 888-670-8549. I just want to honestly know that if there's anybody listening tonight. That's it. Maybe I'll even give something away. If you're listening to the show tonight, you might just get something just for listening to the show. Really, let's not pretend that we've got some gigantic audience tonight who's huddled around the radio or around the app listening to us do a show on a night where we're literally on opposite the national championship game. Now, when the game ends, I expect a lot of listeners will flood to us to hear the post-game reaction. What do we think? And again, there's not going to be much to analyze here. UConn's going to win this game going away. And I'm not saying that to insult San Diego State. UConn got hot at the right time of the year. They just put it all together at the right time. That's it. They were a really good basketball team during the regular season. They were not the best basketball team. Hell, they won. What'd they lose? 8-9 games? At one point in the season, they lost 6 of 8. This is not some team that had what's the word I'm looking for? They certainly didn't have the type of season that when the tournament started, you would have said, oh, yeah, UConn's going to run through this tournament, win by an average of 20 points. I mean, they're on the verge, the precipice of having one of the all-time great runs in this tournament. And I'm not talking about from the perspective of, oh, they were an underdog or something like that. They have blown out everybody. There has not been a single moment in the second half of a game in this tournament where UConn, you thought, yeah, they might be in trouble. It has not existed. They're up 16 right now, and they're not even playing great. And just imagine this. Imagine if they keep most of this team together. Now, there's going to be transfer portals and NIL opportunities maybe in some other schools for some of these guys. So you never know where some of these players may go. But UConn, at the end of the day, I mean, is there any reason to question why this team can't be every bit as good next year as they are right now? Good luck. Good luck to the rest of college basketball. And I mean, if they've unlocked it in this tournament, I mean, what's to stop them next year? All right, so the text line number is 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549 if you want to hit us up on the text line. Just let me know you're listening tonight, honestly. I just want to know you're listening. Because I feel like I'm all alone. I feel like it's me, Justin, and a zillion radio stations where nobody's listening. Because even on a lot of the radio stations were probably preempted for the game. I mean, good Lord. Oh, who's lit? Hold on. We got one into the text line already, Justin. See? Jerry in Louisville, Texas is checking in. He says, I'm listening for a little while. Have a good show. Why only a little while? All right. There was later in this show. So what we're going to do, coming up in 20 minutes, I literally booked one guest tonight. Kurt Heelan's going to join us in 20 minutes to talk NBA. We'll do a half hour with him on the NBA, talk about some of the scenarios that are out there for the play-in tournament. With no games, we could actually just focus on what is to come here over the last 4 games of the regular season for most teams around the league. Is Dallas going to actually miss out on the postseason? And is Jason Kidd's job at risk if they do? I'm curious to get that from our buddy Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. He'll stop by the show. And that's it. And then we're going to watch the game like everybody else is. I'm going to tell you what's going on. I'll give you some analysis as I'm watching it because I literally have it on a screen behind me and then an iPad next to me. So I'm going to watch the game like you are. And then when the game ends, we will have post-game reaction. We'll go to the podiums in the post-game pressers. We'll give you that stuff as it comes across. And what is expected to be basically a coronation for the next hour or so for the UConn Huskies, who are going to win another national championship. And we have to start talking about the UConn Huskies men's basketball program. I mean, you could already talk about the women's program as a quote-unquote blue blood, but you have to start talking about the UConn men's program now as a blue blood. I mean, who's won more national championships in the last 25 years? They've got 4 after tonight, 5 after tonight. I mean, what's more blue blood than that? You could talk about all the, Caliparis and Patinos and all these guys, and the teams they coach in Kentucky and Louisville and North Carolina and Duke. UConn's got another one coming their way. We're back with more of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Oh, my new ad is running. Just talking to ourselves tonight, Justin. Just talking to ourselves. I mean, UConn won in 99, 2004, 2011, 2014. This is going to be their 5th since 99. 5th since 99. Nobody's even close. I don't think anybody... Oh, yeah. And I don't even think... Let's see. Michigan State's got 1. Kansas, Baylor. Duke's got 2. Carolina's got 2. Duke's got 3. Carolina's got 1, 2. And that's nobody's even close. I mean, 5 since 99. That's it, man. I mean, nobody's even got... Duke's got 3. Florida's got 2. And UConn, with their 5th tonight, got the 5th most national championships. They'll be tied for the 4th most... They'll have as many as Duke. They'll have as many as Duke. Huh? And I'll do you one better. They've never lost in the national championship game. That's nuts. They're going to be 5-0 in national championship games. When they get there, they win. Yeah. Let me say 99. St. Pete. San Antonio, Houston, Arlington. Yeah, it'll be their fourth. Thanks for being with us on this Monday edition of the show. What's the telephone number? 800-224-2004 if you want to call into the show tonight. 800-224-2004. You can text us on the exclusive cash-in text line. I just want to see if anybody's listening tonight. If you're listening, that means you're not watching the game or listening to the game. Again, between the national broadcast of the game, courtesy of Westwood One, who does college basketball, and the game on CBS, and the number of people consuming this right now, is there anybody left for me? The text line is 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. Again, I know I recognized when I decided to launch this show in this time slot, there would be certain nights of the year where I know my listenership is, I could burp the alphabet tonight, and I don't think anybody would notice. Should we do that, Justin? Can I burp the alphabet? We were just talking about UConn during the break with Justin and I. Let's see here. Hold on. Text from the 512 says, listening, driving to work in Austin. Wish I was watching the game, though. See, Justin, even the ones who are listening wish they weren't. This is great. I love this. What else? What do we got? I'm listening in upstate South Carolina because you're on Clear FM Chapel, and my other option is Crackling AM channel and cable out. Congrats to UConn. All right. Appreciate the listening tonight from, let's see, who is this? I don't know who this is. Somebody from South Carolina, though. By the way, if you text me, tell me your name so I can shout out your name on the air. Everybody wants to get shouted out on the radio. Or was that only a thing in like the 80s and 90s where somebody was like, oh my God, they said my name on the radio? Kurt Heelan's coming up in, they're at the half. UConn's up 36-24. They're up 12, and it feels like they're up 30. Is there anybody watching this game that thinks right now, oh yeah, San Diego State's got a shot in the second half? Fait accompli. You don't know what it means? Go look it up. This game is over. UConn is not losing this game. And, you could talk about the draw and the teams they had to play. They certainly, other than Gonzaga, Miami's a tough team and all, but you could argue UConn won this tournament when they essentially steamrolled Gonzaga. It almost feels like at this point, it's sort of the Mike Tyson syndrome. Mike Tyson beat a lot of the fighters he fought during his heyday. For you kids that don't know, Mike Tyson was a really good boxer back in the day. Mike Tyson used to beat most people before he ever got in the ring. Mike Tyson had you beat before he even got into the ring. Hell, I was nervous playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out as a kid on Nintendo when I had to fight him, and that was just a video game. And that's what UConn is right now. They've got teams beat before they even get on the court. That's what this has looked like tonight. San Diego State just can't make shots. And even their coach, San Diego State's coach even basically said their length is bothering us in the middle. And the only option, if their length is a problem in the middle, the only option is you've got to drive and kick out and hope you make shots. And they just can't make enough shots. They missed 10 or 11 in a row at one point. And you can't have those kind of droughts. UConn's got this kid, Klingon, who's 7'2" or 7'3". He's a freshman. This kid's coming back as a sophomore next year. He's going to fill out. He'll probably develop a perimeter game because everybody who's 7 feet now does. Again, one of those things that's just crazy to me as somebody who's 45 years old and remembers when centers were basically in the paint, slightly outside the paint, on the baseline, post up, throw it down to him, turn around jumper, hook shot, whatever it may be. And now that day is done. This kid Klingon primarily just plays in the paint right now, but at some point he's going to develop a shot, and they're going to let him go and stretch the floor and shoot from the outside. I mean, let me tell you, Danny Early has got something here with UConn. He's going to be, this team's going to be good. He's got this thing built again. And we were just talking in the last segment about UConn as a blue blood. Just some facts to throw your way, because we're a show that's based on facts. Yeah, some observational facts, but facts in general. UConn is about to win its 5th title since 1999. Nobody else has won 3 during that time. Okay, that's the first thing. Duke won in 2001, 2010, 2015. UConn is about to win its 5th in that same time period. North Carolina's won 2. Kentucky's won a couple. Actually, Kentucky's won 3, if I'm not mistaken. Kansas has won a couple since 99. Michigan State's won 1. North Carolina's won a couple. Florida's won a couple. But UConn's on the verge of winning their 5th since 99. And UConn basketball only became good really mid-90s, early 90s. Cliff Robinson, Tate George, Chris Smith. I think one of those guys is in jail or went to jail. But when you think about UConn, all these other programs, when you talk about Kentucky, Kentucky was good going back to the 40s. North Carolina to the 50s when they won their first title. Duke to the early 90s. Indiana all the way back to the 40s, 50s, 70s, 80s. They won their last title in 87. UConn's about to be tied for the 4th most championships. The 4th most college basketball multiple national championships with their 5th. They'll be tied with Duke and Indiana that both have 5. And you combine it with the women's program. Let's be honest, and I know the women's program hasn't won one in a couple of years now, as the rest of college basketball is finally starting to catch up in the women's game. And we'll talk a little bit about the women coming up in about 40 minutes, because I got some things to say about what we saw yesterday in Dallas between LSU and Iowa. I got a lot to say about it. Now, I'm not one of these Johnny-come-latelys who only jumps in when it's, the women's national championship game. I'm a huge women's college basketball fan and a huge women's basketball fan in general, because I came from Connecticut, where obviously UConn was really good. I live in the West Coast now, but originally from Connecticut. But UCLA has 11, Kentucky's got 8, North Carolina's got 6, Duke has 5, Indiana has 5, and UConn's about to win their 5th. In a span of 24 years, they will have 5 national championships. And again, I'm not trying to create like a recruitment commercial for the University of Connecticut, but where are you going? If you got to go play your college basketball, where are you going? Go play for this team. They don't need me to sell it, but UConn's... And this is the other crazy thing about this, and I've mentioned this before. This will be the 3rd championship, the 3rd different coach. They will have 3 championships in a span of like 13 years or 10 years or whatever, 13 years, 12 years. It's going to be 3 championships in a span of like 12 or 13 years with 3 different head coaches. That is remarkable. It's never happened before in college basketball. It's never happened. 3 with 3 different coaches in a span of 13 years or 12 years, whatever it is. Yeah, 13 years. 12 years, sorry. Because they won in 2011, 2014, and now this one if they manage to hold off San Diego State that has 24 points at halftime of the national championship game. I'm telling you. They've been as dominant offensively. Defensively as they have been offensively. So we'll keep an eye on it. UConn's 30-8. This team lost 6 of 8 at one point this year. You watch them in this tournament, you ask yourself, how did they lose 6 of 8? I don't know. We'll do some NBA on the other side. Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com drops by the program. I'm Jason Page. This is The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. And we do continue on this Thursday edition of the show. Good to have you with us. Were you with us last week when we had Bruce Beck on? Yeah. Here's what's funny. I'm sitting here today talking to literally my next door neighbor in the complex, in the condo that we live in. She's best friends with Bruce Beck. Too small. Way too small. So after that rant I went on last week about other shows on the network, Mean Gene wants to have me on his show. He was like, no, he's not mad. Belmer was like, he's not mad. He just wants to have you on to talk about the Lamar Jackson stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. Normally I would say no, but only because it's Belmer I said yes. But normally I don't go on other people's shows. I said I normally don't go on shows. But because Belmer asked me to, I said I would go on Mean Gene's show. But typically, I would say no. Plus, I get fried. It takes every ounce of mental energy that I have to do this show that I don't want to do it. I don't want to do. When I'm done, I'm done. Yeah, I get fried for doing this. Oh, we had a caller? Oh, no. I didn't see it. If you do something like that, just say in my ear caller, and I'll look at my phone, because I didn't even look at my phone, because I have the ringer off, so I don't hear it. You know what I mean? So just shoot me a message. Just say in my ear, without it going out over the air. Just say caller. Yeah. Good to have you with us. By the way, my apologies. I know we had a couple of people on hold who called in the last segment. I did not see that you had called, and that's my fault because I don't look at my phone during the segments. And we had to develop a little system between Justin and I, so I know when people are calling in, because it's all on Houston's end, and then he relays it to me. But if I'm not looking at my phone during a segment, I didn't know you called in. So my apologies. You guys can give us a call back later. Steven and Josh, both in South Carolina, who are listening to the show tonight. Because my honest question is anybody even listening tonight? Because most of the country, it's probably one of the 4 or 5 biggest sporting events of the year. So you wonder, is anybody even listening? Kurt Heelan is. He's even watching the game tonight. He hasn't even watched college basketball. Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is our guest on the show tonight in the 2-for-1, which may only be a 1-for-1 because once the game ends, we're going to get into postgame. So I don't even know if we're going to play this back in the final hour like we normally do. But I will ask you. I mean, you've been watching. You made an interesting observation that we were just talking about as we were coming back from break. You were saying, the college game is so much different because you're watching San Diego State and they just cannot make shots. And UConn's length in the middle is obviously giving them some trouble. So you say, all right, shoot from the perimeter, drive it in, and kick it out. And you made an interesting observation. I'll let you explain it to the audience.
Yeah. There's not many teams in college ball that have that kind of perimeter game, right? Like that have good catch and shoot 3-point guys. Those guys there's just not that many of them. They're limited. And so the college game is so much more a power game, so much more a get the ball inside. And it's not you've got to get the ball inside at every level, but in the NBA, it's more drive and kick and get those threes. And you're either going to finish. You've got better finishers at the rim and then shooters on the perimeter and better spacing. San Diego State just has not been able to take advantage of that. They're not going. I think it was Clark Kellogg was saying it there because I was watching it like, all right, going inside isn't working. I don't know what else they've got in their bag of tricks. I haven't watched a lot of San Diego State this year. I don't know who shoots from the outside for them, but sliding the ball inside is not going to work against this length for them. They're clearly bothered. They've got to find something else that works.
Yeah. UConn shooting by the way, I'll give you the trouble. UConn shooting 50% from the field. San Diego State is shooting 28.6%. I mean, this is, you can try to, and if you're the guys at halftime on CBS, and you were talking about this during the break, you could try to come up with some rationale for why, UConn might not win. Maybe, stick around. San Diego may have a run in them. This is a 12-point game, and it feels like it might as well be 25 right now.
Yeah, the UConn missed some shots right at the end of the half where it easily could be 16-18. We'll see what happens. I mean, maybe you can turn up your pressure defense, get some transition stuff. Again, I don't know San Diego State well enough to say what they can do, but it's got to be different than what they're doing.
That's about right. Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, joins us on the program. So let me start off with a bit of an interesting one for you. If Dallas misses the play-in tournament, all right? If Dallas misses the play-in tournament, is Jason Kidd at risk?
I don't think so. I have not heard that. They have definitely taken a step. Look, last season, not this season, he was able to get them to play really good defense. They obviously are not this year, but a lot of that, I think, is personnel. Like they went with, not just, we all focused on Jalen Brunson leaving, which doesn't really certainly affected the team, didn't affect the defense. But, they banked big on Christian Wood, who's a horrible defender. They just don't have any rim protection. So I don't think it's on him yet. But I think it's going to be more a case of, first off, I think it's when they miss the postseason. I mean, they're one game back, but it's technically two because OKC has the tiebreaker. So 2 back with 3 to play. You're going to need some serious help to get over that one. They're going to make big moves in the offseason. I think they re-signed Kyrie Irving, honestly, but they're going to rework their roster. They'll have whatever pick this ends up. Well, if it's top 10, they just keep it. If it's 11th, it goes to the Knicks, or worse, it goes to the Knicks. from the Kristaps Porzingis trade, just so that I can come back and haunt you. But this is a team they've got a couple other first rounders farther down that they're going to trade. I think you're going to see them try to re-sign Kyrie and totally rework this roster around those two guys and hope they can find some chemistry next year. I think that's going to be the plan, and it's kind of let's put it this way. I think that's what other teams seem to be expecting that I've talked to from Dallas, that they're not going to give up on this just because they don't really have any other options. They gave up so much to get Kyrie. They don't really have a choice.
Let me ask you something. If Dallas isn't the biggest disappointment in the league this year, is it Golden State? Like, who would you rank if we're talking about the biggest disappointment in the league this year from a team standpoint? Who would you put? If not Dallas, then who would you put there?
Maybe Atlanta too. They're at least internally they're very disappointed. But I think they're up there. Look. The funny thing is how many people still believe in Golden State. And I don't think it's funny. I guess it's. Do you believe in the muscle memory of the playoffs? Do you believe that they can essentially remember how to play in the playoffs and kind of flip the switch? And I'm just not sold on it. I just don't think they defend well enough on the perimeter consistently enough. And I think it shows in their road record. I don't think they're going to flip the switch, but it is hard, isn't it? In this West, are you willing to write them off?
I have to be honest. At this point, I am. And I'll tell you why. There is some sort of mental block here, and I don't know. I don't know what the splits are, road versus home, in terms of how they defend, because I don't think they defend really well at either. But I watch this team, and when you can't win more than 10 games on the road in the NBA, I can't take you seriously in the postseason, especially when most of that postseason is going to be played on the road.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the big thing. You're going to go on the road, and maybe, I mean, the optimistic scenario is you land a team you match up well with in the first round, like let's say Sacramento, and I think Sacramento can win around. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to knock them, but I think it's a good matchup for Golden State. If Golden State can get rolling and get some confidence back and get Poole going again and get Wiggins back fully healthy and rolling, maybe. But I still, like you said, I'm out on them personally. I just don't believe they've been. I just believe in this regular season enough that this just isn't their year, and frankly, this hasn't been their year. Going back to training camp and Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole, I think they've been off balance all season long.
The only thing I could throw into it that gives me some hope, and again, it's a huge question mark because who knows what he looks like when he comes back, is the fact that Wiggins is close to coming back. And that they're actually, whereas some teams are banged up, you don't know what's going on with the Knicks and Julius Randle, LeBron and his foot, all these different, things you could throw in the equation. Golden State is going to be completely healthy, and the roster they thought they had at the beginning of the year will be the roster they have to start the postseason. And that's not something every team has.
No, and they have, what they argued at the beginning was we have our core six back. We have 6 guys that were at the core of what we won last year back this year, and a better Klay Thompson, which is true. I don't know if that's enough, because I think what Otto Porter gave, what Gary Payton II, who they might get back, but I don't know if he's going to quite be the same. I think that what those guys brought mattered. I don't think they're as deep or as versatile, but they got 4 rings, man. You just can't throw that away completely. I'm with you. I'm out. I'm not picking them. I might not pick them to get out of the first round, depending on the matchup, but we'll see. By the way, the other disappointing team that dawned on me, just internally, and I think in general, I thought Minnesota would be better. I didn't think they were going to contend.
The Karl Anthony Towns injury is huge for that team. Yeah. I can't deem them. Yeah, it's a lot harder for me to deem them a disappointment when they're without Cat for basically the entire season. At least half the season.
I think he missed 50 games. I think he missed more than half.
Yeah.
And that's certainly part of it. So I think that's a big part of it. But they weren't good before. I think this did not come together. I had my questions was, oh man, playoffs, you're going to be able to do this and that to them, but it never really clicked, and it's back to not clicking. Their offense has struggled the last few games. Maybe they just need another off season. And I think they're switching out Mike Conley for, switching D'Angelo Russell out for Mike Conley was a big upgrade for them. And it's not just that I like Mike Conley as a player better than D'Angelo Russell.
Hey, Kurt, hold a second. I want to bring you back on the other side because I got some more stuff to get to. Kurt Heelan joins us on the other side. Stay with us.
Did I hang up on you?
Nah, I might have hung up on you because I had a call. I had a call on the other line. It was my husband trying to get into the condo because we have a fob thing that you gotta dial in, and he forgot to bring the fob with him. So yeah.
Hold on, half a second. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then just put it in the oven and set it for a minute timer. I'm sorry. I can finish it. Sorry about that.
No,
you got a fob?
Yeah, no. So he forgot to take the fob with him, so he needed me to buzz him in. Luckily, that happened right at the end of the segment, or that would have been a disaster.
The best move I made when we moved. Long story short, we moved during the pandemic. I went with Vivint, who I'd never heard of before they started sponsoring the Utah Jazz Arena, but we ended up going with them, and they put on one of those keypad doors where you just punch in your code number to our house, and it allowed, rather than having to get keys for the girls, my daughters, who would lose them, as teenage girls are prone to do. Everybody's just got a number, man. Everybody's got a 4-digit code, and it's been the best thing ever. Plus, if somebody did break into the house or something happened, you can actually trace it back to the code.
Oh yeah.
So it was the best move we made, because it's just, between that and now my wife drives a Tesla. She literally doesn't take keys with her. She just walks out the door. Like, I got my phone.
You got a Tesla? What do you guys do for a living? Jesus.
Not. We're leasing it. It was about the same leasing price as.
You were able to lease it. Car. Gotcha. Which one do you have? Which do you have?
The Model 3.
Yeah. How do you like it?
She loves it. I mean, we're the perfect people for it. It's fun. It's like driving an iPhone, but she drives like 30 miles round trip a day.
Yeah.
To work. So it's like we're the perfect people for it, because we're not putting that many miles on it. We're not trying to take it 200 miles or something. Like every once in a while, we have driven to Santa Barbara to see our daughter once, but like that's it. So generally, it's really easy. It's been in that sense, it's been really great.
Yeah, our next vehicle is we have a hybrid right now. We got the Chevy Volt. How do you like it? Oh my God, it's fantastic. It gets 52 miles of electric, which again, for driving around town, what more do you need? Yep. And there's a bunch of places to charge for free around Palm Springs, so we do that. Yep. And but our second vehicle that we get, when we get a second vehicle, which will be hopefully soon, I think we're gonna get the Chevy Blazer, the EV Chevy Blazer.
Yeah, we're whatever. We're not there yet. We have a hybrid that my daughter drives. We had a bigger third row SUV for when we had kids that we had to get the soccer and carpools and all this shit. That part of our life is ending, and we're like, we're getting really close to just, hey, let's get rid of this thing. And it's the same thing. We want to get us something like that, but an EV version of it. Like just an electric.
It's so nice. I mean, if we get gas once every 6 weeks, that's a lot. Like, we never have to get gas. The only time we have to get gas is when we make trips to LA. Other than that, we never have to get gas.
And honestly, if I were driving somewhere like, hey, we're going to go out to Vegas, I'm driving out to Summer League, I can rent a car.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's easier. It's way easier. What part of Palm Springs are you in?
Right in downtown. I'm literally 2 blocks from the main drag. Yeah. Hold on, I'm coming back. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we got a great spot. Oh, the show is interrupting my conversation with Kurt Heelan, pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. I'm just carrying on a conversation during the break about our EV vehicles and hybrids and all that stuff. Yeah, Kurt's living with the better half. He's got a Tesla. I'm driving around. I got the EV vehicle that gets me 52 miles. His gets like 300.
Yeah, it's this. But you are confusing who gets to drive that between me and my wife. Like,
see, I'm a tyrant. My husband always yells at me. He always calls me Kim Jong Jason, because he always says I never let him drive. Everywhere we go, I always drive, and it's not because I'm a tyrant. It's because I hate being a passenger. I get car sick real easy. So I hate being a passenger in the car. So I have to drive. I can't stand it.
I do most of our driving, but I have no emotional attachment to it. I don't know how we fell into. It's funny. I was thinking the other day, I'm like, how did we fall into this pattern? Why I drive all the time?
Kurt, give me some thoughts before we get to the East and talk about some of what's going on there. We've spent most of the time here on the West. Give me a thought here on the Lakers. Can they get to 6?
Yes, absolutely. The big game, huge game Wednesday night. If they could against the Clippers, winner of that game has a inside track on the 6th seed, and that's going to be huge for whoever gets it. And the Lakers, frankly, have been playing better. They have both of their stars. I think that helps. The Clippers, though, are first are just hard to predict. They're up and down. Kawhi has been phenomenal of late. So I think it's a really interesting game Wednesday night, one of the big games of the week. And yeah, they win that game, they got a real shot at getting 6th or getting into the top.
Do they have the tiebreaker? Who has the tiebreaker between them and the Warriors?
Believe the Warriors.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the Warriors, but I would have to.
I don't mean to put you on. I apologize for putting you on the spot. I just didn't know if you knew.
I'm not in front of my computer where I have those notes. I believe it's the Warriors, but that's a bit of a guess.
I'm just looking right now. Lakers beat the Warriors. I'm looking to see. Lakers beat the Warriors in. They beat them once. They beat them twice. No, you know what? Lakers have beaten them all 3 times. Lakers have beaten them all 3 times.
Lakers have the tiebreaker, so they could get up to 5th. Which then it really now it gets interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch the part of the West. Like, I don't everything's so bunched up that nobody can deal with this. But if you could, look, if you're 5, you get the Suns. If you're 6, you get the Kings. And with all due respect,
everybody wants the Kings. Everybody wants the Kings.
More than that, I just don't want the Suns. I do not want Kevin Durant. Like, that is, I think they might be the best team in the West. Memphis, if they get, I think Memphis, if they get Steven Adams back, has a shot. But man, I do not want to see Kevin Durant in the first round. That is the last thing I want to see. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's some dodging to avoid that. Yeah,
it certainly is. Move over to the Eastern Conference here for a second. Milwaukee and Boston and everybody else. The Knicks have managed to win a couple of games here without Julius Randle. I don't know how that formula holds in the postseason. Is there somebody as far as potential play-in tournament teams that you think can make a run deep?
Miami always scares you, but I don't know that they have a run in them. But again, this is a situation where the 2 seed is a bad spot. I mean, Boston kind of gave this up with their play for a while, and to Milwaukee's credit, they got really hot after the All-Star break. Boston let this happen. Look, if you're the 2 seed right now, you probably Miami will be in the 7-8 game, probably against Atlanta, probably win that at home. So now in the first round, you get Miami with Jimmy Butler and his playoff level, and Bam Adebayo, and probably the best coach in the league right now in Eric Spoelstra. You beat them, you get the Sixers with Joel Embiid. That's a team capable of winning it all. They are stacked. I think they're the 3rd best team in the NBA. You get through those 2 and you get the Bucks.
Yeah.
That is a gauntlet to get to the Bucks, man. And it's an advantage for the Bucks. Not only are they home, but they just don't have to go through that.
What's going on with Andre Drummond?
He is got his. I'm trying to see how to phrase this. There's some mental health issues of stuff he's trying to deal with, and he's been a little bit public about it. But he's just kind of working through some stuff, I guess is how I'll put it. I don't have a ton of details, but
it's hard to believe he's 29 years old because it feels like he's been in the league forever. And he has. I mean, he came in when he was 18. So I get it. But, my God, he's only 29 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of wild, isn't it? Like, in theory, he should be in his prime, even though I think we all think he's kind of past it. But he should be in his prime. It's this isn't a case of one of those guys trying to come back at 40. This is a guy trying to find his path again. Well, he should be physically able to. I mean, he's had some injuries, but he should be physically capable of still playing at a high level. And peak Andre Drummond was best rebounder in the league. Like, he absolutely has a role on the right team.
Joel Embiid has surged back in front in the MVP vote. He's minus 200 right now in Vegas. Nikola Jokic has slipped back to plus 260 after this thing looked like a dead heat a week ago. Is it anybody's guess? And I mean, can Giannis sneak in here late? I know there's been some comments about his eligibility or possibility of winning this thing. Does anybody really know who's voting for who at this point? Do you think most voters have made up their minds?
No, in fact, it's the opposite. And the voters I know that I've spoken to, and I'm a voter, and I'm in the same boat. If you ask me right now, I would say I have a split lead. And if you would ask me at any point over the last week, I might have said the other two. Like, I've talked myself into every one of them over stretches of time. So I don't think voters have really made up their mind. And I'm not sure how much these final games are going to matter unless, there is a Sixers-Bucks game. So if one of them dominates, maybe. But I don't know how much that's going to influence anything at this point. It's really even. It's really even. I got a feeling it's going to be Embiid. I think that there's a certain segment of voters ready to give it to him, just because he's been second twice in a row, and I don't know. It's sort of like democratic politics. They just tend to vote for the person who should be next in line, and so he could win it, but I got really smart people like trying to pitch Giannis to me, it's a really good case, and on the simple best player on the best team, best player in the world on the best team, yeah, that's Giannis.
Good stuff. Kurt Hamlin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Listen, I always appreciate it, my friend. Have yourself a great week. We'll catch up with you next week when hopefully this playoff thing is a bit more crystallized and we're talking about the play-in tournament.
Oh, yeah. We will be talking play-in, and we can get into Minnesota then.
All right. Good stuff. Appreciate it, my friend. Kurt Hamlin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Appreciate him stopping by the program for a bit. By the way, in Vegas right now, Dallas is plus 270 to make the play-in tournament. Plus 270 to make the play-in tournament. Golden State. Boy, that's metaphorical. I could hear the toilet flushing in the background in my condo. And as we're talking about Dallas, the toilet actually flushed. That was almost like a built-in sound effect for the show to talk about how bad the Mavericks are. That the toilet flushed in the background as I was talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Yes, thank you. Thank you for flushing the toilet. It was almost like real-life sound effects. UConn's lead over San Diego State is 11, with Sonogo at the line with another free throw to come to make it 12. It's UConn 46, San Diego State 35. I'll tell you, the Aztecs have come out in the second half and are putting the pressure on UConn, but Nothing seems to razzle this UConn team. They just seem completely unfazed right now. But, 10 points is basically a 3-possession game. Well, now it's 12, 47-35. But San Diego State just hasn't been able to show that they can string possessions together. That's how we wrap up the first hour of the show. Hey, guess what we'll be talking about in the second hour? More college basketball. I got to get into the women's championship game yesterday. And we'll keep tabs on UConn and San Diego State. Stick around. More cash in to come on SportsMap Radio. Stay with us. Be right back. The other night, I was so stressed out. I walked over to the vending machine. See, if I make a noise and you're on a conference call, 5 people hear it. When you do it, an entire country hears it. That's right. Easter is this Sunday. It is about God. You're right. Clinging. Clinging. Let's do it. Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. We are your ears and eyes on the national championship game in men's college basketball. 49-35 UConn on top of San Diego State. 12:15 to go in the second half. And again, it's 14, which, with 12:15 to go in your mind, you're saying, you know what? They can make a run. It's relatively close. And there is nothing about the flow, the ebb and flow of this game. There is nothing about this game that makes you feel like San Diego has a shot. UConn would have to beat themselves at this point. And every time down, it feels like they're either getting a free throw or they're getting a basket or they're making a stop on the other end. It's remarkable that this game there's just no sense that San Diego is going to be able to make a run here. It's what it is. We'll keep tabs on it for you. I've been asking the question, are you listening? No, really. Because this is one of those few nights of the year where I'm doing a show and I wonder if anybody's actually listening to the show. So if you are, you can text us at 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. There's also a call-in line, 800-224-2004. If you want to talk about the game, if you want to talk about anything, 800-224-2004. If you want to reach out. We've got some texts that have come in throughout the program tonight. Let's see here. This one from the 864. This is Gaffney, South Carolina. Texting into the show. Says UConn doesn't recruit at the level of the Blue Bloods, yet outperforms them. It's very true. UConn does not. When you hear about major recruits and commitments, you don't hear UConn that often. It's absolutely true. This one is from James in Detroit, Michigan. Says, I'm listening to you on the app and watching the national championship game on TV. You're making an excellent case for UConn being a blue blood, Jason. When I think of blue bloods in men's college basketball, I think Duke, North Carolina, Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky. James from Detroit, Michigan. I don't even know. I mean, Indiana hasn't won anything since the 80s, James. I don't know if people realize that. But I mean, Indiana has largely been irrelevant in the last 35 years in college basketball. 30 plus years anyway. I mean, here's the reality. Think about this for a second when it comes to Indiana. And I'll get to the note on the women's college basketball here in a second. I say Indiana, we'll do word association or name association. I say Indiana to most sports fans today. What's the first thing that comes out of their mouth? Bobby Knight. That's it. It's Bobby Knight. And again, when was the last time Indiana under Bobby Knight was relevant? You got to go back to the 80s. So to me, or when he was, choking a player during a practice and then getting fired for it. And then said he would never go back to Indiana until he did. Yeah. Tough guy. So to me, I don't even know if I put Indiana in the conversation. All the other schools, absolutely. Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky. I absolutely put them in the mix. You think about how hard it is to win a national championship and to win the NCAA tournament. You got to win 6 games. And you look at UConn, which is on the verge right now of a 5th national championship in the last 24 years. And that's why I think you have to put them in the conversation when you talk about blue bloods now. UConn up 51-36 after a couple of Sonogo free throws, I believe, with 11:54, just under 12 minutes to go in the second half. We will keep you posted. So UConn is on their way to a championship. LSU got its first women's college basketball championship on Sunday and it had a huge crowd, or a huge audience, I should say, rather, for that game. LSU Iowa championship game was the most viewed NCAA women's basketball game on record, with almost 10 million viewers. I mean, that's insane. You know, and I got to be honest, the only reason to me, I think, that you had that big an audience is Caitlin Clark. Which gets to the heart of what I want to talk about here for a few minutes. And that is the way, well, a certain LSU player, who I won't even say her name. Because the way she carried herself at the end of that game was despicable to me. And before you go and start telling me, well, Caitlin Clark was doing the you can't see me thing against Louisville, so why is it, first of all, I didn't know that Caitlin Clark did it against Louisville, because if I had seen it, I would have called it out. So I did not see that. So I don't have that knowledge when I'm watching the game. And I can guarantee you most of the 9.9 million people that tuned in for that game yesterday had no idea about the Caitlin Clark thing against Louisville, where she did the John Cena, you can't see me thing while she was lighting them up for 40-plus points. So when you get this player from LSU, whose name I will not say because I don't think she deserves it. I don't think she deserves to be mentioned, because of the way she carried herself at the end of that game. And the fact that her coach didn't even really call her out on it. That Kim Mulkey didn't even call out her player for behaving that way. Because at the end of the day, all Kim Mulkey cares about is winning. And that's what makes her such a great coach, by the way, is the fact that all she cares about is winning. Doesn't make her a great human being, and we've chronicled that on this show, as was evident by the way she handled Brittany Griner being locked up in a Russian prison, unjustly so. But cast all that aside. Even if you want to say Caitlin Clark doing it was wrong and the media should have called it out, and again, I didn't know it was happening, so most of the 9.9 million people that watched that game on ABC or ESPN yesterday, most of the people that watched that had no context of Caitlin Clark doing it. All they saw at the end of the game was this player from LSU waving her hand in Caitlin Clark's face as the final seconds are ticking down and pointing to her hand as if to indicate she's going to have a ring and Caitlin Clark isn't. I mean, what kind of players are you coaching at LSU? This isn't like the NBA, where I expect the trash talk, or even the WNBA, where that's becoming more prevalent in the game, where the personalities from the women in the WNBA are starting to emerge more. And I think it's a good thing, by the way. You're talking about, in some cases, teenagers when you're talking about college basketball. And this is the way they're carrying themselves? Is that a good look for LSU? Is that a good look for Kim Mark? I'm sorry. I cannot wrap my head around. The fact that some people are trying to defend that behavior from LSU yesterday towards the end of that game. And I'm going to tell you right now, the reason 9.9 million people were watching that game yesterday had nothing to do with LSU. It had everything to do with the magical run that Caitlin Clark had in this tournament. Not just the best women's college basketball tournament performance ever. The best NCAA Division I college basketball performance ever. Her tournament, better than anybody. Better than Glenn Rice back in the, late 80s? This was that kind of special. I mean, she looks like, I'll tell you what she looks like. And I know I'm going to get killed by women's basketball fans for saying this. and I know why I'll get crushed for saying it, but I'll say it anyway. She's the female Stephen Curry. That's what she is. And I know people will say, why you got to compare her to a guy in order to give her a compliment? Because I don't watch enough women's basketball. I never even saw Diana Taurasi do this sort of stuff. And Diana Taurasi was a special player back at UConn and then in Phoenix in the WNBA. I never even saw Diana Taurasi do this stuff. I mean, Caitlin Clark, everybody on the court knows she's going to be shooting, and she's still scoring 40. On a down day yesterday, I think she had 28. That's the reason people were watching on Sunday. They wanted to see just how high she would go. That's why you had a 103% jump over last year when 4.85 million people watched on ESPN and ESPN2. Yesterday, you had almost 10 million people. That's a great thing for women's college basketball. But I'm not down with the way LSU handled things late in the game. I'll never be a fan of Kim Mulkey, so you could just forget that right now. But hats off to LSU and Iowa for putting on a hell of a show in that game. 102 points from the LSU women in that game. We're coming back. We'll update you on the men's national championship game next. Actually, I want to put the women's college basketball stuff in there. Yeah. No, I want Kurt in there too. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, don't go falling asleep. I'm serious. Well, if you wanted a recipe for San Diego State being able to get back into this game, the recipe is they're shooting better in the second half and UConn is shooting worse. And there's obviously reasons for all of that. But UConn's only up 7, 58-51, and it was down to 6 a couple of moments ago. So we got a basketball game. The spread, by the way, pregame was UConn minus 7.5. Think Vegas knows what it's doing? Still a lot of time. 6:45 to go in the second half. So we're seeing this is as tested as UConn has been in this entire tournament. I don't think there's been a game in this entire tournament where with 6:45 to go in a game, UConn has only been up by 7. And this, I think, was something that a lot of people wanted to see, was whether or not UConn, if they were finally tested, if the nerves might creep in, if they might start to struggle a little bit. But right now they're holding up. They're up 9, 60-51 with 6:45 to go in the second half. We'll keep you posted. One more side note on that number of about 10 million people that watched on ESPN and ABC yesterday, ESPN2 and ABC yesterday. Something to think about. I'm going to give you 2 reasons. I'm going to give you 2 reasons why that number may have been a little bigger. I'll give you a few. One, Caitlin Clark, obviously. The other, sports betting. People will bet on anything. Even if they don't have a strong knowledge of it, people will bet on anything. Trust me. I know people that listen to this show that are big sports bettors. And it's not because they follow everything. It's just because they're action junkies and they're looking for something to bet on. And by the way, I'm not saying I've never been one of those people, because I certainly have at various points of my life. San Diego State, by the way, with the ball down 7 with 5:35 to go in the second half. Oh, it's getting interesting in Houston. Oh, boy. So we'll see what happens here over the final, 5 minutes of this game. But San Diego State moving the basketball much better. Oh, and they're going to get 2 free throws here. So I'll give you the sports betting is one. Caitlin Clark. And ultimately, stories. I mean, people want storylines. The trash talk and all of that stuff. There needs to be some sizzle. When UConn was dismantling opponents year after year after year in women's college basketball, I mean, there came a point where people used to ask the question, is this good for women's college basketball? I used to hear, as somebody who was in Connecticut during the peak run of the UConn women, I used to hear all the time, is this good for women's college basketball? Is it good for women's basketball that UConn is so dominant? And it was a fair discussion. And I'm not saying that it was good or bad, but you look, UConn was out of this tournament. Oh, huge 3 for Hawkins. UConn up 8 now with 4:57 to go. So when they get pushed, UConn is responding in this game in a big way. But, UConn wasn't in this tournament on the women's side. They were eliminated in the Sweet 16. And look at all the people that were still watching. In fact, more people than ever before watched. So, hats off to the women's college basketball team. One more note on this. It has nothing to do with either team. But it has to do with our First Lady, Jill Biden. And I don't know what the motivation is here. Because Jill Biden can say one thing, but I don't know how to take it. Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, says that she wants to see Iowa and LSU invited to the White House. Now, that would be a precedent-setting moment. That would break from tradition. And the tradition is only the winning team gets invited to the White House. Now, I'm not, it's not a pro-LSU thing. It's not a pro-Iowa thing. It's not a pro-Democrat, pro-Republican thing. It's a this is a stupid idea thing. The reward, key word here, reward for winning a championship is to do something that most people will never get to do in their lifetime, and that is meet the President of the United States. You want to meet the President of the United States? Not that that's anybody's goal when they're playing sports, is they say, oh my God, I want to win a championship so I can meet the President. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. In fact, when Trump was president, there were some people that said, we don't even want to come to the White House if we win a championship because they didn't want to be seen anywhere near that toxic figure. By the way, that hasn't happened since Joe Biden was president. However, I think this would be a terrible idea. I think it would be the worst idea imaginable if you start breaking from the tradition of you win a championship, you get to come to the White House and meet the president. Now it's, well, you put up a great fight. By the way, they lost by 17. The game never even got close, from 10 minutes in the second half. Now, this game never even really got close in the second half. If Jill Biden just wants to say it, she should say, Caitlin Clark had the best performance of any women's college basketball player, and she was on the losing team, so we want to invite you to come to the White House too. Because other than that, this is complete baloney. There's no reason Iowa should be at the White House. LSU won the championship, regardless of what I think of them or Kim Mulkey or the way they conducted themselves. They earned that trip to the White House. You diminish what it means to win a championship when you suddenly start to, and this gets into a whole nother conversation. I'm going to go off on a tangent here. This ain't going to be pretty. If there's a night to do it, it's tonight, right? Nobody's listening. Everybody's watching the college basketball game anyway. This gets into the whole participation ribbon, second place, sixth place trophies, seventh place trophies. Everybody gets a trophy. Oh, you finished? You get a trophy. It doesn't matter if you were dead last. You get a trophy. You finished in fifth place. Oh, my goodness. You get a trophy. You know where they don't give out fifth place trophies? Nah, you know what? I won't even go there. There's certain countries where if you're not first, it's like the old saying from Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last. Right? Isn't that what Ricky Bobby used to say? If you ain't first, you're last. I don't want second place at the White House. Winners go to the White House. You know what, Iowa? You want to go to the White House next year? Finish the deal. That's it. Caitlin Clark, by the way, though, she was the story of this tournament. They can give player of the Final Four. They can give out any award they want. This Final Four, as much as LSU would like to believe otherwise, outside of Louisiana, this Final Four is going to be the Final Four where Caitlin Clark put herself on the map. As if she already hadn't. She had made some insane game winners and had some great performances this year in the women's game. But Caitlin Clark was the story of this tournament, and she was the story of most of the women's college basketball season. And here's the good news. She's got one more year at Iowa. So that's good news for women's college basketball. By the way, UConn is up the lead back to 10, 3:40 to go in the game between them and San Diego State. So I think San Diego State got it to within, 5, 6, 7 Justin, how close did they get it? 6? They were within 6 at one point, and now they're down by 10 again. Oh, and the signs are there. Yeah, doesn't look good. Time's running out. UConn is about 3 minutes away from their 5th national championship in the last 24 years. They're the best, and that's it. After a down period after the departure of Kevin Ollie, UConn men's basketball is back in a big way. We're back with more on the cash-in on SportsMap Radio. No participation trophies, Justin. Oh, Sonogo! Oh, God, somebody went down hard. There's an outside shot. We get the UConn assistant coach, Tom Moore, on the show in the post game. Yeah. I mean, I've got his direct phone number, so he's a friend. I texted with him earlier today, so. You think? Of course. UConn a minute 50 away from a national championship. They just broke the press and scored rather than running the clock out. 71-57 Connecticut, and this one's just about over. Wow. I mean, again, when you consider this team was ranked as high as second and then lost 6 of 8 and kind of, muddled through the rest of the season, lost in their conference tournament. It's not even like they won their conference tournament. It is, it is amazing when you think about the fact that this team is closing in on a 5th national championship. And I'll tell you another thing, and when we talked about this on the show last week with Tom Moore, was it last week? It might have been the week before. All the days blend together. Tom Moore is I think it was last week. Tom Moore is the assistant head coach at UConn and a former D1 coach and head coach in his own right at Quinnipiac. And he may be a D1 head coach somewhere again after UConn wraps up this national championship. But Tom Moore said, one of the things that gives teams so much trouble against UConn is their depth. UConn's depth is, they go 9 legitimate deep. Like, they've got 9 guys that can all put the ball in the basket that are vital parts of this team. And, most teams cannot put that kind of firepower out there. By the time the end of the game comes, you're winded, and they look fresh as daisies. In this entire tournament, I never felt like there was a moment watching these games where UConn was just out of gas at the end of the game. Just didn't see it. So UConn is on the verge of wrapping this thing up. We'll have post-game coming for you in the next hour after they get off the podium on the court inside Energy Stadium, and they go do their post-game pressers. We will try to get Tom Moore on the show, the UConn assistant head coach. We'll try to get him on the show to talk a little bit about this performance from the Huskies. So we'll let you know when it goes final, but right now UConn up 73-59. And I'll tell you, the Hurley family, and we haven't talked much about this. Danny Hurley, who was an all-time great point guard at Duke, national championship winning point guard at Duke, solid college basketball coach in his own right. The Hurley family coaching tree all the way up to the father. It's just, this is a family that, winning is in their blood. And it's got to be wild for Danny Hurley right now. Just kind of sitting there and soaking in this final. And you hope he does, because he's such an intense coach. And as people have talked about on this show, he's always coached with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Like he has something to prove. Well, now he will have the ultimate validation that you could have as a college basketball coach. He will have won a national championship. And again, this UConn team is going to be good for a while. There's a lot of good young talent on this team. As they're inside of a minute left, and UConn fans at Gamble Pavilion in Storrs, Connecticut are watching, and those at NRG Stadium can start to celebrate the UConn Huskies 2023 national champions of the college basketball world. Amazing. As they empty the bench, and UConn gets to celebrate this very special moment. 5th national championship for the program. The UConn Huskies back on top. 3rd championship in 12 years with 3 different head coaches. And that really is amazing when you think about it. And now Danny Hurley's starting to soak it in and enjoy it a little bit. Amazing. All right. The phone number, 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. If you want to call into the show tonight, you can also text the show, 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. If you want to shoot us a text message, you're welcome to do so as we move through the show tonight. A couple other items to get to as this game goes final. And again, we'll keep an eye on all the post-game audio and all the post-game sound. Major League Baseball news today. I don't know how many times I've had to say this, and we might have talked about this story briefly last week. And I don't understand why, it's so amazing that some people can be so disciplined in some aspects of their life and then have zero discipline at all or zero self-control at all when it comes to others. And by the way, I can relate this to myself in my own personal life. If you ask me down to the minute, how I plan out a radio show and all these different things, if you saw me in my professional life, you'd be like, man, that guy's got it locked down. And then if you saw me in my private life, you'd say, wow, that guy is a train wreck. How could he have anything locked down professionally? And some people are just like that. And professional athletes are no different. I bring this up in the context of this Anthony Rendon story. I don't care how angry you get about the fact that, something doesn't go your way. It's a bad game. Angels lost 2-1 on opening day to the Oakland A's. And as the game ended, Anthony Rendon had a public altercation with a fan in Oakland. And the videos went around on social media. Rendon was fined an undisclosed amount, suspended for 5 games for grabbing a fan by the shirt as he was making his way out of the first base dugout and into the tunnel that leads to the visitors clubhouse at Ring Central Coliseum on Thursday night. Rendon accused the fan of calling him the B word. It rhymes with niche. So you can figure out what it is, right? Rendon accused the fan of calling him the B word, then took a swipe that missed his head before he walked away. Before Monday's game, Rendon said, quote, "It sucked. My emotions got the best of me. I'm usually pretty good about interacting with fans, have fun with it. But the gentleman and I, we spoke on the phone and we both apologized about what had happened. And so we're both ready to move forward." You're a baseball player making millions of dollars. And I'm not saying fans, by the way. This is not me endorsing this idea that fans pay, they can say and do whatever they want. No, they can't. It's like, First Amendment, free speech. I could say what I want. No, you can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. There are limits to everything. There are limitations. There are rules. And you cannot simply interact with players this way if you're fans. But at the same time, the guy with a 7-year contract for $245 million has to turn the other cheek. Again, short of the guy taking a swing at you or putting his hand in your face or jabbing, whatever. If that's not happening, if we're literally talking about somebody just chiding you with words, you cannot, as a player, put yourself in a position where you are potentially putting him at risk, whatever it may be. You simply can't do it. You have got to be smarter than that. And quite simply, Anthony Rendon was not smarter than that. And now he finds himself suspended for 5 games. And by the way, he hasn't even come close to living up to that contract. You want to talk about stealing money? Anthony Rendon should wear a mask every day when he goes to work because he is robbing the bank. Was great with the Nationals. Made an all-star team. Won 2 Silver Slugger awards. He hit only .235 so far in the new deal. 324 games. We'll come back. More reaction to UConn winning the national championship is next. Trying to get an answer from Craig if we're allowed to play. Like, I've recorded the interview of the post-game interview with Danny Hurley, not from the CBS telecast. No, they pay millions for that, right? Oh, okay. Guess no. Makes no sense. No. Thanks for being with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. UConn wraps it up. They are national champions, 76-59 Connecticut with their 5th national championship. We will keep an eye on post-game. And when we get some post-game audio and stuff like that, we'll obviously pass that down to you. We'll also see if we can get UConn assistant head coach Tom Moore on the show before we get off the air as well. But UConn, 5th national championship since 1999. And look, I mean, I can't remember in my lifetime. Now I'm 45 years old. I've never seen a more start to finish dominating performance than the one that UConn's put on display here. Never. And this was really impressive stuff. And I'm sure somebody will be able to put it into a better historical context. And this game did get down to 6 or 7. So when people look at the final score, they're going to be like, oh my God, UConn romped again. But with, 5 or 6 minutes left, this was Justin, am I wrong? Justin's our producer on the show. It was about a 6 or 7 point game with 5 or 6 minutes left. Yeah. Oh, it did get as close as 5. So there you go. I mean, San Diego State got it to within 5. But then UConn, as it has done this entire tournament, just found another gear. And they are national champions. All right. 1-800-224-2004 if you've got any reaction. 800-224-2004 is the telephone number. You can also hit us up on the text line, 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549 from anywhere in America. UConn now has to be considered a blue blood. I mean, I think this puts all of that conversation to rest at this point. When you look at, what the Huskies have accomplished since 1999, and even going back a little before that when they started to make runs deeper into tournaments with Jim Calhoun, obviously, helping to bring that program to prominence. Good players, the Tate Georges, the Chris Smiths, the Dove Hennefeld, Cliff Robinson, all the way through the years of Rip Hamilton. I mean, wow. Something else. So UConn wraps it up. We will keep you posted, as I said, on postgame. And, you look at that Hurley family. They've all won something now. The dad's in the Hall of Fame. You got Bobby Hurley, who was a national champion at Duke. And now Danny Hurley gets the first national championship as a head coach. And they've got out the ceremonial Final Four poster board where UConn will be able to place itself at the top of the list as national champions. Number 5 for UConn. Wow. All right, so we'll keep you posted on what goes on in the postgame, as I said. We'll give you all the information on the game as we continue to go as well. Big news tonight. Big news today, I should say. Just to switch gears away from this, because we'll be monitoring the basketball postgame. And typically we don't talk much about wrestling on the show unless Brian is producing the show, because Brian's a big wrestling geek. So sometimes we'll bring Brian on to talk about all the wrestling stuff. But WWE today, how about $9 billion? Sold for $9 billion and now gets paired up. And look, this is brilliant for all sides involved, because let's face it, UFC is, tries to be WWE, except WWE could script its fights and, decide who wins and loses. It's all predetermined. Sorry to spoil it for anybody who's, thinks that wrestling is real. Yes, the bumps are real. Yes, the injuries are real. Yes, the falls are real. I get all that. But the outcomes are predetermined, which is why it's still wild to me that you can actually bet on it. That you could actually bet on WWE when it comes to the pay-per-view events. And by the way, if you bet on Cody Rhodes last night, oh my God, did you take a beating? Because Roman Reigns was not supposed to win last night at WrestleMania in the main event, and he did. And then the news came today that WWE has sold for $9 billion to Endeavor, which is the company that owns Dana White's UFC. And that will create now a $21.4 billion entertainment company, with UFC and WWE leading the way for Endeavor. So we were all wondering who Vince McMahon was going to sell to. There had been talk that Saudi, the Saudi public fund wanted to get involved. That turned out to not be the case after I think a lot of people expressed their outrage at that idea. But the sale of WWE to Endeavor, which will close in the second half of the year pending regulatory approval, will merge the two biggest global brands in all of combat sports. By the way, you want to talk about a great investment? 1982, Vince McMahon bought the WWF from his father. You know how much he paid for it? Ready for this one, Justin? $1 million. Vince McMahon bought it from Vince Sr. for $1 million in 1982. It's a pretty good investment, I'd say. Turned it into billions with a B. He will serve as executive chairman of the 11-member board. Dana White will continue to serve as president of UFC, and Nick Khan will serve as president of WWE. Khan told ESPN, quote, "You know how highly I think of Dana. Vince only has respect for what Dana has built or helped to build, so we think it's going to be just fine. And if there are any debates, those will be in private. Once we come out of the debate room, we're aligned and we move forward together." You have two of the greatest promoters of the last 30 or 40 years now in the same house, White and McMahon. We can only learn from one another. By the way, WWE generated a gate of more than $21.6 million at WrestleMania. This was number 39, by the way. And it did big viewership numbers, biggest attendance numbers since they started doing the two-night event. I mean, this was a monster weekend for WWE. Say what you want about the company, the booking of matches, all of that stuff. Say anything you want about that. WWE right now is stronger than it's ever been. And you could argue there's already some crossover between the two companies of UFC and WWE. I mean, think back. Brock Lesnar. Heck, even go back to the Frank Shamrock days when Frank Shamrock used to wrestle in WWE. Ronda Rousey. WWE star Matt Riddle used to be in UFC. I don't know if he's wrestling right now. He's had some substance abuse issues. But WWE, and here's what's more interesting. At the same time with Endeavor, and Ari Emanuel could say all that he wants. Oh, what a great opportunity to, Vince McMahon and work with him. But think about both companies, UFC and WWE, and both of the people that have been the business faces of the company and helped to promote the company. Both of them, a couple of shady characters. Think of some of the things Dana White has said over the years. The video of him slapping his wife around at a New Year's Eve party. Vince McMahon, the affairs, paying off women that he's had inappropriate relationships with company money, no less. And Vince just walked away with $9 billion for selling the company. Ain't America great? Like Don King used to say, only in America. Final hour of the cash-in is right around the corner. Stay with us. What time is it where you are? 10:56, right? Not other than what I told you. Yeah. I just messaged Tom Moore. We'll see if he calls up. All right, I got San Diego post game up right now.
We'll ask Coach Dutcher to open things up with a statement. Then we'll take questions for the student athletes first. Coach.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Coach Danny Hurley and UConn Huskies on a national championship. Very deserving. They played at an elite level the entire tournament. We battled back to 5 in the second half, but gave them too much separation. And we weren't at our best tonight, and we had to be at our best to win the game. And a lot of that has to do with UConn. But I'm proud of our guys. These guys have given me everything they've had. 6 years, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. These guys are what it's all about, and it's about college athletics. These guys are good people, and they're good students, and they're really good players. So we can feel good about the things we did. And we are. We feel good about the things we did. Disappointed in the loss, but there was a brotherhood in that locker room that'll never be divided by a margin of victory or not.
To open things up with a statement. Coach.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate.
of a Monday/Tuesday edition of the show. Good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. After a UConn win, 76-59, they are national champions. Text from, let's see here, Gaffney, South Carolina, says Japan's Pride MMA organization was significantly better than UFC has ever been. Yeah, but people in this country don't see Japan's Pride MMA. That's the problem. I mean, there's a lot of great products around the world that Americans never see. I mean, if you're a huge MMA buff and a huge MMA nut, you would know what Japan's Pride is. There's One Fighting Championship. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different organizations out there that put on great shows and are successful and do well. But at the same time, as most people know, UFC sucks most of the air out of the room. The money behind it. All right, I promised you post-game. Here is Brian Dutcher, the head coach at the San Diego State University men's basketball program. This just started a couple of moments ago. Here's the coach's opening comments.
Student athletes first. Coach.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Coach Danny Hurley and UConn Huskies on a national championship. Very deserving. They played at an elite level the entire tournament. We battled back to 5 in the second half, but gave them too much separation. And we weren't at our best tonight, and we had to be at our best to win the game. And a lot of that has to do with UConn. But I'm proud of our guys. These guys have given me everything they've had. 6 years, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. These guys are what it's all about, and it's about college athletics. These guys are good people, and they're good students, and they're really good players. So we can feel good about the things we did. And we are. We feel good about the things we did, disappointed in the loss, but there was a brotherhood in that locker room that'll never be divided by a margin of victory or not winning at all. That brotherhood's going to last a lifetime. I told him that. And I was in there with Juwan Howard, and we were sad many years ago together too, when I was an assistant coach and he played for us. And he was in here supporting me because that's the kind of brotherhood that we all have and will continue to have. So I'm proud of these guys.
So there you go. That's Brian Dutcher's opening comments in the post game after San Diego State falls to the University of Connecticut. 76-59. We'll get back to Coach Dutcher's comments when it becomes the one-on-one portion of the post game. We will hear from UConn head coach Danny Hurley as well in this hour. Post-game podium sound with him after UConn wins its 5th national championship. But right now the San Diego players, the San Diego State players are on the podium talking. So we'll keep an eye on that. And when they get over to UConn here in the post, or when they get back to the head coach, Brian Dutcher, we'll get there. I mean, look, this is still an amazing season for San Diego State. I mean, you had 2 mid-majors in the Final Four this year. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I talked about it with Matt Norlander on the show last week as well from CBS Sports, and I said to him, I don't think this is an anomaly. And I'm not saying we're going to have, every year is going to be a Final Four without a number 1 ranked team. I'm not saying that at all. But I think you're going to see less chalk in these tournaments. It's hard to win 6 games when you've got teams that are, 12 and 13 and 14 seeds that can start making deep runs into the tournament. I mean, like I said, you saw what FDU did. I mean, FDU stood toe-to-toe with a 35-win Florida Atlantic team. Toe-to-toe with a 35-win Florida Atlantic team. And that's not just a mid-major. That's, FDU, you're talking about tiny conference in the NEC. So And I don't have to hear the audio, but you've got players on San Diego State up there at the podium, and you could see the tears. And that's where you feel for these guys, because a lot of these guys aren't going to the NBA. A lot of these guys aren't going on to have massive NBA careers. They might go play in Europe, or they might go play in Asia. They may go play somewhere else. Doesn't mean they're done playing basketball just because they're done playing in college. But they'll probably never play in this sort of pressure-packed, high-leverage sort of situation again in their entire lives, most of these guys. And in the moment, you don't realize any of that. Only when it's over, like it is now for these guys, does that reality set in that you're done. It's over. You're not going to play ever again. Sometimes you're talking seniors, and you heard Brian Dutcher talk about it. He's had guys, 5-6-year players. And that's why you see some of these mid-majors that are able to make runs deep into the tournament. They've been together longer. Chemistry, cohesion, all of that stuff that you can't put on a stat sheet. You can't put on a stat sheet when teams are together with the same group of guys, not a different guy leaving every year to go and play in the NBA or at the next level. Doesn't exist. All right, here's Brian Dutcher now. The players have left the podium. Take a listen.
Questions for Coach Dutcher. We'll go back to Myron on the right side up front.
You cut it to 5. What was so challenging going from there and trying to close that gap against this UConn team?
Great offensively. Eventually, they made a timely basket or two. We didn't. They're hard to score on. Their length bothered us around the rim. They had their way with the entire field this tournament. So I just said when we were down at halftime, I said, let's cut it to 6 with 10 to go. Let's get back in there and let's make them play a close game. Let's make the margin where it's uncomfortable. And I think we got it to 5 with 6 minutes to go. And then it was 7, and we missed a 1-and-1, and then it kind of ballooned up from there. So I like the grit of my team. I like how hard we fight. We don't give in. We came from 14 down the last game, and when we cut it to 5, I think there were people in the stands that thought, hey, they're capable of doing it again, and we were. But we ran into too good a team, and we didn't play at our best. And they, like I said, they're a reason for that we didn't play at our best. But we had to play better in order to have a chance to win the game.
Coach, we're going to take one question each from the reporters from the East Village Times.
Coach, that first half, I think you missed 14 straight field goals, went through an 11-minute field goal drought. Did it just come down to missing shots, or was it adjusting to the UConn defense?
We got off to a red-hot start in the game offensively, and then AG had a post-up where he missed a jump hook, and then he had a roll to the basket where he got it blocked, and then we had another play we got to the rim. And those are plays you have to make over length if you're going to have a chance to win the game. So their length bothered us at the rim. Jaden had a tough time finishing. He finally went through the body a little bit more in the second half. But, they're the hottest team in college basketball. We thought we'd have a chance. We cut it to 5, but obviously we didn't have enough offense to overcome as good as they are.
Continuing with East Village.
Coach, they didn't actually know who was going to be coming out here, which players were going to come out until the very, very end. Why was it important for you to have these 4 gentlemen come with you in this moment?
Because they were the seniors that have used up eligibility. They've given everything to the program. And what better group to hear from than guys that have been here for 5 and 6 years and poured all into it, and to see the raw emotion and to feel good about college athletics when you hear from kids like this, from young men like this. I mean, if you can't, the box score and the articles won't read anything about it, and only the people that are sitting in this room, the dozen or 20 of us, will have a feel for what this was tonight, a feel for what it really is. And it'll all be words, but you won't feel the emotion that you felt by sitting in here with these young men.
Center of the room. It's the back right microphone, Matt. Hold on one second, please. We're going to get the front left microphone.
I still got good hearing. I can hear him.
Nick Lawrence, a mid-major Madness coach. You mentioned after that win on Saturday that you aren't a mid-major team, but you come from a mid-major conference. Just talk about what that means for the state of the game that you guys made it here. You gave UConn its toughest test of the tournament. It was a 5-point game with about 5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, we got a good team. And with that being said, Florida Atlantic, we were very fortunate to get by them, and they got a really good team too. Everybody back. So the state of basketball is in good shape right now, and you don't have to have millions of dollars in NIL, and you don't have to get every kid in the portal to be successful. You just have to have kids that are about the right things, that want to win beyond anything else and are willing to sacrifice to do that, and that's what we have.
That last statement, that's Brian Dutcher, the head coach at San Diego State. And that's a great note to end this segment on. He just hit the jackpot with that answer. That's the one that should be played over and over again on ESPN and all these different things. Not the kids crying after they just had their hearts torn. No. That statement. Not about the NIL money. Go think about all the teams that had all that NIL money, all the one and doners who are home watching this game. And even UConn. You're not talking about a huge NIL budget even at UConn, and they're a blue blood. We've deemed them that anyway. Just need guys that want to stay, play together. We'll come back. More to do. Who is nefarious?
to be on the stage right now as a national champion, knowing what this program went through in those previous years and what you were able to bring it to with this team this year?
You know what? I'm still thinking about some things that the typical Dan Hurley fashion, like the amount of missed layups. Jordan's dunk to start. We should have been up 18-20 at halftime. That's just really the way my mind works. You know, I think when I get back to the hotel and we get off the bus and I just get in a room for a little bit, I'll be able to kind of decompress a little bit. I'm just mostly proud of the way that we've done it and with the type of people that we've done it, the way we, recruit young players, develop young players. We do it without cheating. We do it without lying. It's truly been building a program and a culture. I'm lucky. I have the best coaching staff in the country that attracts these incredible, types of players.
Coach, next question is to the red aisle. Kevin.
Hey, Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated. Coach, obviously UConn's championships have been defined by stars like Emeka and Shabazz Napier, Kembo. Another double-double today from Adama. What has his run meant to this team's ability to win a championship?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously cemented himself into, the pantheon of greatest, obviously the greatest big guys with all the production and back-to-back first-team All-League, and now this to have the national championship just puts him in a position in one of the most storied programs in college basketball. That now he's an all-time great.
Coach, on the right side up front.
Brendan Quinn of The Athletic. Dan, you know what your family's name means in basketball, in New Jersey, whatever not. What does it mean to you to add to that name in this sport?
I think people, obviously for me, I've had my own path, my own journey. I think a lot of people, I've probably done it to myself by being such an intense, fiery coach that people have always focused more on, the sideline kind of antics than they have on, my total body of work over the course of my career. There's not many coaches, that were as successful as my teams were at St. Benedict's. At Wagner in Rhode Island. So many coaches in the country that have won 25 games or more in 3 different programs and now have a national championship. So obviously there's a certain level of validation that's going to come from this. But I just feel like my career in coaching, even prior to this, I think most coaches, maybe I don't do a great job kissing the media's ass and presenting and, this image that's incredibly likable. But, I am who I am. I'm where I'm from. I'm from Jersey City, and this is how people from Jersey City act.
Up front to the left, Dom.
Yeah, Dom Memorial, Hartford Current. Dan, you emphasized out on the court, or you said with some emphasis, we've got our own, or we have our own now. Can you kind of expand on just what that means, that this is your piece of a storied program?
Yeah, and I hope Coach Calhoun, too, he's had his hand in this one as well. I wish he could have been here for it, because I know, he's been a big part of helping us get here. It's just, when we're in that Worth Champion Center, and Gino and with everything that Gino's done and what they do on a yearly basis and all their hardware, and obviously, we propped up in recruiting those 4 national championship trophies in front of these kids, and we had nothing to do with that. And and then we removed them about 18 months ago when we started feeling like we had put something together that could make a run at getting a 5th. So we removed those and put them and got them out of our offices and said, like, we don't want any trophies in here until we've got our own. And it's just when you're at a place like that, it's a little bit empty until you feel like you could like join the club. Yeah, I feel like now we've held up our end of the bargain that the women's team's been carrying for so long, since forever, and it seems like, and now obviously Coach Calhoun, Kevin Ollie, Gino, it feels good to accomplish what they've done.
On the right side toward the back.
Greg Frank, SportsMap Radio. Dan, coming into this season, you had not won an NCAA tournament game at UConn. How much pressure were you feeling as the season unfolded to deliver this result?
Me and Kamani, we talked about it once we got our roster together and knew we had a squad. Me and Kamani and Luke just kept saying, like, the most pressure-packed game that we will ever coach in or play in was going to be that first-round game, and we didn't know who it was going to be. And then obviously it was Iona, and then the hysteria started. We were playing the boogeyman, Rick Pitino, and and that we were in big trouble. We knew we couldn't go out, like suckers again in the first weekend. But we also didn't, we didn't wear that around the players, but we certainly felt it. Yeah, but listen, we came into the season unranked. So we had an edge to us to start the year to prove people wrong.
In the back to the left of the aisle.
Yeah, Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman. You mentioned being unranked. No 1, 2, or 3 seed was here. 16 beats a 1 again. Is it fitting that you guys were unranked and, lost 5 out of 6 in January, and nobody could touch you here?
Yeah, I just think it's such a hard tournament to be successful in and navigate. And obviously, we the last 2 teams we've played, Miami, beating Houston and Texas back-to-back in Kansas City. That's a heck of a team. We played Alabama. We know how good they are. These guys, beating them and a Creighton team that this tournament's hard to navigate. It's not 7-game series. It's not 5-game series. And now with the extra COVID year and NIL and the portal, it's like, I think it's made things even more challenging for the biggest brands and the highest seeds to advance because there's so much parity.
So there you go. Danny Hurley, post-game meeting with the media. That press conference continues. You heard a question there from Greg Frank of SportsMap Radio. You can hear in afternoons here on some of these SportsMap Radio affiliates from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Talking to him about the idea of this UConn team. He never won a game in the tournament. And now they're national champions. Another thing and you forget this because they were ranked second in the country at one point in time. UConn came into the season unranked. And just to finish this thought, let me finish the show with this. We've had this conversation all night. Is UConn a blue blood now? And a guy that I think would be pretty qualified to make that determination recently did on the Colin Cowherd podcast on Sunday. Former Duke head coach, Hall of Famer Mike Krzyzewski, who's got 7 rings of his own, said this about UConn, quote, "I hate when people say there are no blue bloods in the Final Four. You have to be kidding me." And in that, he was referencing the fact that UConn is a blue blood. Quote, "What Jim Calhoun built, one of the great coaches, but also maybe the greatest builder of a program since 1999. They've won 4 national championships, now 5. Maybe give them a different color, but certainly they're at the level of all the few teams that you say are blue bloods." That's Mike Krzyzewski on UConn. And that'll be the final word on tonight's show. Thank you to Justin Barbosa for producing it. I'm Jason Page. We'll catch you back here on Tuesday night, get back to a little normalcy. NBA, Masters talk, and a whole bunch more. Cash in SportsMap Radio. Bye. All right, my man. Good job. Oh, the presser just ended. What great timing. All right. Have a good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You on tomorrow? All right. See you later. All right, that does it for us on the video side as well. We'll get back to a little normalcy tomorrow night on the show. And, yeah, be fun. Good times. We didn't even talk a second of baseball tonight other than Anthony Rendon. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app. Wherever you watch us, I appreciate it. See you later.